Thank you, Aggie and Dr. Go and the foundation to have me here today. Pancreatic cancer, it is very personal to me. About 4 years ago in March, I lost my father-in-law to it. So it's something that has been always driving me forward, not only try to support everyone and during their treatment and their battle with pancreatic cancer, but more so also to prevent this cancer from ever to occur to anyone. Here are the things we know really well that is associated with pancreatic cancer, particularly during your treatment. That can be chemotherapy or perioperative period. And we all familiar with loss of appetite and taste changes, pain or discomfort, and that all come along with it, and together with tired, weight loss, and all other things like vitamin deficiencies and things we worry. What do we try to do as a patient or patient family? And what most of us, if not all of us, are doing is offering everything we could with one goal, and that is they would be nutritionally better supported, meanwhile they're not losing weight. And in reality, it often is the contrary, and the patient still not able to take the food we're offering and start losing weight. That bothers everyone, the patient and the family. So the first thing I want to say or ask the group is that, what is our goal? Is weight loss really an indication of an advanced disease or something else? And there's something we know very well, I'm not going to get into in depth today, and that is overweight, obesity, particularly abdominal obesity. It is one of the major risk factors for pancreatic cancer. So let's look at what we know now, at least from an animal model. And here at the A, the little diagram showing you the mouse was first on a calorie restriction, about 30%, and that is the lower open circle represent. And before the tumor was transplanted or implanted to the mouse. What we have seen here is that the mouse was on calorie restriction with lower body weight. When they are injected with tumor cells, pancreatic cancer cells, they actually do better. The tumors are smaller. They are less sick. Here's a different study again, still with a mouse. In this one, they also look at the mouse was just eating at what they want, or calorie restriction, and look at how the tumor is proliferating, and also looking at the tumor per se, the pancreatic tissue per se, under microscope, how do they look? Again, this is showing similar result, and that is at the calorie restriction, that is you're not eating to the point you feel, gee, I really cannot take one more bite, I'm so full, actually, and provided some benefit. At least it is at mouse model. The other thing we do know for human is that when we are restricting our calories, and we do activate a whole group of genes, and we call them longevity genes. But what we don't know is that when we are dealing with pancreatic cancer, the body is not able to take in nutrients. It is a good thing, or as we have always been thought, and this is an indication for a bad disease or tumor burden. This is definitely an area need a lot of research. But what I do want to share with you is that weight loss may not be something we can stop with the pancreatic cancer treatment. But what we need to do is not really focus on the weight gain aspect. As a matter of fact, we do know from human studies is that when you are gaining weight, when you're dealing with a chronic illness or cancer, we are really not gaining muscles. Almost 100% weight gain is fat. Does the fat gain really beneficial for long-term survival? Actually, there are significant concerns. That statement is ever true. So the goal for us, me as a physician interested in nutrition study and practice, we want to first and to be clarified on what kind of body weight we are looking at. So the goal really should be try to maintain your body weight or try to lose less weight. And the other thing I want to have everyone bear in mind is the patient's quality of life. It is most important. I have seen many patients come in order to taking calories, and they are making themselves to eat half-gallon ice cream, eating peanut butter a jar a day, and there's some of them even drinking olive oil through the day. And that is not helpful to really, deal with the symptoms I have shown you on the first slides. So what we should focus on is supporting our body. It doesn't matter it is surgery or chemotherapy or all the other therapy. We need our body and our major organs and to be who we are. So with that have said, and I think when we're talking about nutrition, we need to focus on number one, macronutrients. That is the carbohydrate, fat, and protein. The second one actually come down is micronutrients, vitamins, minerals. There's so many of you come to me say, oh, I'm on that many vitamins. But without your body, without your major vital organs, you cannot live on vitamins. And lastly, I also want to talk about a very new field, is phytonutrients. Those are the nutrients, not give you calories, not the vitamins, minerals, but they play such an important role in overall health, including your battle with pancreatic cancer. The most important nutrients you must pay attention, particularly when you are not in good health, it is protein. Why? Protein is not something our body can make all just from carbohydrate or fat. And meanwhile, it's our main support of our body organs. That can be from the muscles, the brain, the heart, the lungs, and pancreas, and other major organs. We cannot survive without adequate organs to be functional. The other importance of enough protein support is that our immune system essentially is mostly made of proteins. If we are fighting cancer, we need our antibodies, and antibodies are proteins. We do need adequate protein support. Even our neurotransmitters often rely on the protein we're taking in and to be made, therefore, and keep our really sane, not going crazy. So enough said about that. So what are the good sources of protein? Particularly consider all the symptoms come along with pancreatic cancer. Here is a short list and give you a visual. Number one is chicken breast and turkey breast, well cooked and partially in a way digested. And the other one is seafood, all kind. And come down, there is eggs, including the egg whites, if you can tolerate. And we can talk about the new dietary guidelines which have changed recently involving the eggs at a different time. And there is plant-based proteins like from peas, from soy, and from heaps, many different kinds. There is one major group of protein or vehicle I want to talk about is protein shakes, because they are often partially digested proteins, very low fat and very low carbohydrate, and is easy for many of our patients to handle. And how much protein we should take? Okay, that is a question next, once we know what we should take. And here is a bare minimum, that is 0.8 grams per kilo of your body weight. But remember, that is really not the optimal, but instead the real minimum. And how much is that? So I have a table for you. And typically, that of a card size meat, it gives you about 20 gram proteins. It's about 3 ounces. If you're talking about fish, they're less dense compared to, chicken or turkey. So you usually need about 4 ounces, a little larger piece to give you and that about 20 grams or so of protein. So here is a list I'm more than happy to share with everyone. You don't have to in a rush to write it down. And the other thing I want to tell you is that our body actually do not have a protein reserve. And we actually take in the proteins, the building block of amino acid, stay around about 3 hours. After that, we really don't have a storage place for it. Not like a fat, they can store it up, and like a carbohydrate, they can store it up in some degree. With that said, very important, particularly when you are dealing with cancer, to have proteins throughout the day. Start with breakfast and have more than lunch, and later on dinner, and if you could, have snacks in between. And that would really help your body to have a consistent and supply for amino acids, for immune system, for repair of your organs, and all of that. And I'm going to want to just put one slide to specifically talk about whey protein. What is whey protein? It's a protein isolated out of clear part of the milk. And it actually has special features, and it has more branch chain amino acid. Basically, the molecule is not straight lines, they have side branches. Why that is important? Because that actually has been studied. It helps the muscle to make new muscle fibers. That's one of it. The other feature of whey protein is they also have a lot of functional proteins like immunoglobulin related or other proteins that have a function locally in the GI tract. The other reason is they are partially digested, very easy to absorb, will not require extensive digestive juice usually made by the pancreas. And also, if you actually making a shake or popsicles, it is very practical for anyone, even you have really poor appetite to taking in. And I just showing you one figure you can have your frozen berries or fresh, and add water, whey protein usually come in. One scoop give you 25 grams. If you like to be cold, add ice and blend it. Here's your smoothie. If you're really having a day, very nauseated, I can't drink, freeze it as a popsicles. And I often tell my patient, and just make those and really lick on it through the day, and you would not only get liquid, but also your essential proteins. Next, we'll talk about fat. And fat is, digestion from a particular animal source require a lot of digestive enzymes made from the pancreas. But we do need fat for our normal body function. I'll give you a little cartoon over there to tell you if it's a straight line, rigid, that's your saturated fat because they can't really move much. If they have one joint, that's monounsaturated fatty acid. If they have many joints can move around, that's called polyunsaturated fatty acid. Just to give you a visual. And here's what they exist in the food source. Saturated fat usually comes in, from animal source, and some of the plants like coconut oil or palm oil also have a saturated fat. But we have been learning more, and those saturated fat may not as bad as what we got from animal source. The monounsaturated fatty acid, the one with one joint, and those are predominantly, if not all, from plants. And the last group is polyunsaturated, and mostly from plants. And another one mostly is from, either fish or algae, that is from the ocean. I do want to also make you aware, when we're talking about saturated fat is bad, polyunsaturated fat is good, it is not actually accurate. Within the polyunsaturated fatty acid, they actually have two groups. One group has a joint at the 6th position, one group at the 3rd position. And the body always have a balanced system. And turned out to be the 6th, the joint at the 6th position, usually start inflammation. Inflammation is not always bad. And to deal with the stress, that can be virus, cancer, or anything from the environment. But the other system is a balanced system, and that is the position 3 fatty acid. That usually start after the 6th start. It will calm down the whole process, and the body go back to peace. When you are dealing with pancreatic cancer, and your body are pretty much in inflammatory status, and that is omega-6 would do. So in reality, for everyone here, we really should try to take in as much of omega-3 as possible, because that will help to decrease the inflammation. So that we can have more discussions down the line. They mostly come from fish and algae, or you can buy the capsules from all kinds of different sources. And then I'll move on to talk about carbohydrate. And carbohydrate, we all call it carbs, and they have simple sugars. They also have starches. What's the difference between simple sugar and starch? If you imagine a bundle of grapes, each individual grape, it is a sugar, okay? You buy a whole bunch, they always have free ones hanging around. That's free sugar. But the whole bunch, that's a starch. Why I'm telling you that? If you say, I don't eat sugar, I eat starch, your body will break down each individual one. They will become sugar eventually, but it's a much more compact form, efficiently for your body to store up, also for the plant to store up those sugars. So that will be the difference between carbohydrate, starch, and simple sugar. So this is when we're talking about starch, we mostly think about. That would be the bread, rice, and pasta, and all of that. They do give you energy, some which is our body need. But I do want to say, though, if you have the appetite, you should have some, but not too much. Why is that? I'd rather you have the carbohydrate from plants directly and unprocessed. That's your fruit and vegetables. Why I'm saying that? Because they not only give you the sugar, provide you energy, they provide you a lot more. Here's a simple cartoon. When the world Earth starts, and there is start to have plants. We all know plants use the solar energy from the sun and get water and soil, they start grow. But we also know, and the plant release oxygen. Oxygen is essential for life. But we also know everything from individual cells to the entire human being, part of the reason of death is oxidation. It's caused by oxygen-involved process. So it's really a double-edged sword. In order to survive, the plants survive the damage coming from oxygen, each one of them develop their own way and to deal with the damage caused by oxygen. They produce all kinds of compounds. Now we call them antioxidants. All right? Each plant has its own way and to deal with the same issue along evolution. Here comes a human, many years after plants are on the earth. We are on the top of the food chain. And with that said, we eat all kind of fruit and vegetables. Also, we do not have freeways, airplanes, and trucks. Depending on where we are at a given time of the year, we'll eat whatever. Then we migrate on, we'll have something different. So we actually truly are taking advantage being on the top of the food chain. Well, why that important? Even now we know the color of the fruit vegetables is not just there to please your vision, but actually is a true representation of what kind of nutrients is in the fruit and vegetables. And I just want to let you know, only humans and birds have color visions. And your cat and dog see black and white, and so do everything else. Why human beings need a color vision? It's definitely not designed for us to use our phones and watching TVs and movies. It's actually helping us to pick up different sources of food for better survival. Now I'm going to give you quickly a few examples. The red color, actually in watermelon, tomatoes, and red grapefruit are called lycopene. In the orange color from carrots and yams and some of the peppers are called beta-carotene. The yellow color usually have flavonoids, and that can be pineapple and oranges and all of that. Look at the blue-purple, and the true color of the grapes and blueberry are mostly from resveratrol. And that's also in all the talks, resveratrol activate longevity genes, therefore you need to drink red wine so you can live forever, right? It's all from that. Even the white-colored plants have things special. I'm giving you looking at, onions and garlic, and they actually have something called alliums, and that is very special to that group. I'm going to give you then a few examples of research going on at UCLA, particularly at our center. One of the fruit we have done a lot of study is pomegranate. And pomegranate, it is an ancient fruit. And I can tell you, though, most of the nutrients relevant to us from the pomegranate is not from aerial, it's not from the seeds, and mostly from the skin, the host. And I also want to remind everyone, the plants exist not for the whole purpose of waiting for human beings to eat them. They try to survive. They try to propagate. And that's the reason they have the best in the seeds and rest of the defense system, and usually outside. So the special molecule, as you can tell, I don't know left and right, and it's a huge, gigantic molecule. And actually, it gets to the stomach and get to the colon, the bacteria help to break it down. One of the smaller molecule, the little red one, get released. Here's some animal study showing this particularly small molecule called ellagic acid can really suppress pancreatic cancer cell growth. Again, this is not clinical. This is in the petri dish work in the lab. And here is just another one is showing you they actually cause the pancreatic cancer cell start to die on its own. That's what we call apoptosis. Another example I want to talk about is curcumin. That is come from curry. If you have ever been to Indian restaurant, the yellow pigment, that is from curry. And it's a root of a special plant. It's been used in Asia, in India, and China for years and years. And I'm just not going to get anything specific. I just want to show you what curcumin has found to do. Those are all the medical conditions today we know, and curcumin have an effect on it. On a molecular level, as a scientist, and here's all the pathways curcumin are involved as well. Obviously involving KRAS, like Dr. Li Li Rosen was talking about. So it is having tremendous impact on our body. Here, I'm only going to show you one phase 2 study recently being published. That is pancreatic cancer patient. and taking in 8 grams of curcumin every day. And they found 21 or 25 patients had some degree of response. This is one particular patient, look at their antigens. In this particular study, they look at CA125. And what they pointed out is that there's a little bump along the way, but that actually is because the patient stopped the curcumin for surgery. It went back up after surgery, and the patient restarted, and together with surgery, the mark really came down. Here's another patient's CAT scan before and after taking curcumin, and here was the liver mets, and now it is at the end of the trial, it really significantly have gone down. Again, those are very preliminary data. It's not randomized, not large, patient participate, but those are things suggestive. Next, I'm going to talk about tea. We drink a lot in Asia, Europe, and even here. Tea has a special molecule. I'm showing you a picture over there. Again, are large molecules, but they also have profound effect on many of our body functions. I'm just showing you one particular study here is showing you that particular molecule called EGCG is suppressing pancreatic cancer growth in a dose-responsive way. And I think I have So just suggesting you those are, as areas we should move on to do more clinical studies where, I think many centers like us and start to looking at that. We talked about chemotherapy, we talked about, combine everything together, but it is also true when we combine different food, when we are having our meals or prepare our food. And here I'm going to show you one study. It actually combined broccoli, which contains something called sulforaphane, very unique to broccoli, and the other one's quercetin, usually in onions and apples, and the other one's tea, like I just talked about. And here is, a cell model showing you each individual of those phytonutrients suppress the tumor growth. But if you combine them all, they have most of the effect. And this is similar to what we've been hearing for our HIV test and chemotherapy, and just food for thought for everyone here today. I think that this is the last examples I'm talking about, even something we think we knew really well. Tocotrienol actually is one of the forms of vitamin E. Vitamin E have 8 forms, 4 of them called tocopherols, 4 of them are actually called tocotrienols. The truly functional vitamin E actually is the tocotrienols, but it really existing in very small amount naturally in food. So when we're talking about taking capsules, they are predominantly synthetic tocopherols. And recently has been many negative studies failed to show benefit of vitamin E, mostly in cardiovascular field. And some of the studies even suggesting taking vitamin E is actually doing you harm. It actually has a lot to do with what kind of vitamin E are you taking, which isomers you are taking. And tocotrienols, the 4 isomers, are much more biologically active than the tocopherols. And again, I'm just showing you one study here to show you tocotrienols at a very low level suppress pancreatic cancer cell growth in a dose-response fashion. There are actually clinical trials ongoing to look at the supplementation of tocotrienol and in cancer patients clinically. So that there are being ongoing studies for that already. And then lastly, I want to also talking about something we just learning more and more, that is the bacteria inside us or on top of us. And if we count all our cells from head to toe, I can tell you only if we count 100 cells from head to toe, only 10 are yours. over 90 of them are all from the microbes on you or inside you. If we count the genetic material, again, from head to toe, your genes, your human gene, counts for less than 1%. You are totally surrounded or submerged in a microbe world. There have been studies, even from UCLA, to showing the bacteria in your mouth and saliva and the GI tract, it have a close relationship to pancreatic cancer. And so a lot of you, when we're talking about microbiomes, I've talked about, just mentioned that they're everywhere. They control us in a sense. Everybody immediately jump to think probiotics. That is live bacteria you try taking in. And that is, there are significant concerns if those bacteria ever get to your gut. And the other concern, are they going to get into your blood when your immune conditions are not the best? So instead of doing that, I would recommend everyone to consider prebiotics. What are prebiotics? Prebiotics are the food for the good bacteria, in a sense. Where they come from? They come from the stuff we eat every day. The fibers we cannot break down, absorb, other than just deal with our bowel habits. They actually have much more functions, particularly the soluble fibers, the shorter fibers. They are the main food for bacteria. And just mind what you eat, because that determines what kind of bacteria on you and inside you, and in turn may have impact on your overall health. And I know you're going to have a lot of questions about, okay, should I eat the food or eating the supplement? But I only want to convey one message. That is, supplement does not equal food. And the reason I gave you the combination, having broccoli, tea, and apple, it is because they are food. Each one of them have so many compounds. When you take a supplement, you're talking about, usually individual ingredient, you're talking about drugs, you're talking about therapeutic range, you're talking about toxicities, not talking about the quality and regulation by the government. So my recommendation to everyone would be support your body with the key nutrients. And the goal is to maintain your weight or slow down your weight loss and maintain your functions and maintain your quality of life. And when we talk about nutrition, we cannot just talk about nutrition. We also need to talk about physical activity. The body is a machine, works on demand. If you could stay as active as possible when you supply your body enough nutrient to support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Li. Questions, please.
Even though I didn't see pizza on your list, I do have a question. You were talking always about ocean-bred fish, but what about in the grocery stores now, and probably most of our restaurants, we have farm-raised fish. Where does that fit in this chart?
Okay, so the question is about ocean-caught fish versus the farm-raised. Okay, that first thing matters, it is omega-3. Okay, the fish do not make fish oil. Fish are concentrators. And who made the fish oil or the omega-3 is algae in the ocean. The fish eat the algae, they start, this fatty acid start store up in their body. So the bigger the fish, the longer they live, they have more omega-3. That's one difference between ocean caught fish versus farm raised. Farm raised mostly are, freshwater fish. And that's one thing I want to say. The second thing is that there are a lot of people concerning about ocean pollutions, but they are still much less adulterated than farm-raised. But then we have to always concern sustainability. So that is obviously another reason for open discussions. As to omega-3 supplementation, to get around the sustainability issues, now they actually have industry just grown the algae, okay? Without the fish help us concentrate and directly extract the omega-3 from algae, then to get around the sustainability issues.
Thank you for your presentation today. It was pretty enlightening. A question for you about infusions of vitamin C and vitamin D, a modified version of vitamin D, something called paracalcitol. Are you familiar with any of that? Do you have an opinion about that?
Yes. So first is about infusion of vitamin C. I think actually the vitamin C infusion, and there have been people done studies, again, a very small studies showing suppression of some cancer growth, but I think it needs much more study. Actually, it has a lot of science we don't quite understand. If we can infuse vitamin C, meanwhile have it rush inside the cell, have increased the cell's metabolism of vitamin C, convert to oxalate, they actually can really helpful to kill the cancer. But how can we do just that to the cancer cells, not the human beings? I think a lot of people are trying to figure it out. There are actually quite a few clinical trials ongoing for that. As to vitamin D, vitamin D has been shown as very important for cell proliferation overall, and there have been studies done in colon cancers and others. As to IV infusion, and particularly for pancreatic cancer, I am not really aware any really phase 2 or close to phase 2 levels of trials ongoing. But with that have said, because vitamin D is so important, I would recommend everyone take vitamin D supplement, particularly your level it is at low normal or below the normal range. I do recommend people should take vitamin D. Particularly we're now staying indoors so long and going out, we wear sunblock so often. That is something I think we could do better.
The issues that I'm struggling with as post-Whipple is that my gastrointestinal system does not tolerate the same foods as I was able to eat before. And I can eat a food on one day and be just fine, and the next day eat the exact same food and be in great distress with gas and...
Okay, and that actually the best approach would be actually we work as a team to study your body individually. What we have found out is that it's not just the food you just had. It may have a lot to do with the food you had 2 meals ago or a day before even. Particularly now we know microbiome is involved in the process. And the other conditions actually may not relate to food directly, it is related to your body condition. And yesterday there was a talk at UCLA. If you get stressed just for 2 hours, they did with a mouse. The mouse was only stressed for 2 hours, your body will go through significant change. Even the microbiome in your gut would change. Your hormones made in the GI tract would change. So there's much more dynamic than say, oh, gee, yesterday I had an apple, it was fine, but today I'm not having trouble. But you don't know what you had the day before your first apple. So I think the best way is learning your body, grow together with your day after day experience.
I'm not a tea drinker, so what would be the best type of tea to drink? Is it the leaves or the store-bought little bags? What is the best?
Okay, I think her question is, I'm a tea drinker. What time should I drink and what kind of tea I should drink? Okay, so first of all, answer any time. Actually, no particular time, but I do want to say, if we look at epidemiology study, that is look at the population, and if you want to really see benefit, you better drink at least 3 cups of tea. Ideally, more than that, like 5 cups, and you see more significant benefit. Okay, second question is what kind of tea you should drink. And the tea are so-called different tea, mostly related to how the tea leaves leave the bush and how they get processed. If you just freshly picked and dry, that's white tea. And realize tea are, leaves, they're live. If you don't stop the enzyme or kill the enzyme, they're gonna degrade, they're gonna change. So then you end up roasting, steaming, and do all different kind of things. And if you do steaming, then mostly we see is green tea. If you want to process more, roast it, bit it up, and roll it up, and then usually is black tea. And we actually have been studying a lot of green tea because they are sort of less processed and they have a lot of antioxidants because they have a lot of we call phenolic compounds. They serve as antioxidants. Now we also start learning though, when the tea get processed, the molecule getting bigger, they actually also have different effect. They're also beneficial. So if you ask to answer your question, I would say first, drink tea as much as you like, and second of all, stay with the tea and you mostly enjoy. Lastly, please don't dress up your tea. That is with sugars, half, and cream. That applies to coffee as well. All the talks we heard, coffee drinking increase your cardiovascular risk, and now we're teasing out all the data. What we found out is that if you just drink black coffee, and that actually is very beneficial, decrease your risk for heart disease and other things. But a lot of risks are associated with how you dress up your tea. It is you drink your tea with 0 calories, or you get it from a Starbucks with 750 calories. All right? Thank you, and
Thank you very much, Dr. Li.